Hey everyone, and welcome back to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to unpack this one with you guys. Today, we're taking a fascinating journey over to the village of Sujingar to analyze a classic tale that is just packed with economic struggle, some crazy supernatural twists, and really profound human psychology. We're looking at a story that, sure, on the surface is about a magical room, but underneath, it offers an absolute masterclass on resilience and morality. Okay, let's dive into this core mystery we're going to be solving today. How exactly does a destitute fisherman named Shamu go from barely affording a single meal a day to running a massive restaurant empire? And honestly, more importantly, what drives his fellow fishermen, a guy named Kishan from the exact same background, to sneak into his house in the dead of night and just burn it all to the ground? The answers reveal a whole lot about human nature. All right, Section 1, The Fisherman's Struggle. Let's move to and see how this builds. Shamu lives in Sujangar with his family, relying entirely on a single village pond. But, well, summer hits hard, the pond totally dries up, and he's left completely empty-handed. This timeline here gives us a roadmap of what happens next, his incredible economic rise. So we start at that drying pond, which pushes him to total unemployment. But look at where he ends up. He moves from a humble, rented samosa cart all the way to owning a massive restaurant. And as you'll see, the journey between Step 2 and Step 4 is paved with immense sacrifice and kinda a touch of the miraculous. Before any of that success, though, tragedy strikes. 500 rupees. That is the exact amount Shamu's wife, Bhavna, had to borrow from a neighbor just to get medical treatment for Shamu's dying mother. It beautifully showcases their deep family devotion, right? I mean, they literally have nothing, but they're willing to risk debt for love. The mother gets her medicine, gives her family a really heartfelt blessing, and then peacefully passes away in her sleep. It's just a devastating blow that leaves Shamu totally heartbroken. Moving on to Section 2, A Mother's Final Blessing. So it's been a month since the tragedy. Fishing has completely collapsed, Shamu's still unemployed, and they're basically on the brink of starvation. And this brings us to Bhavna's incredibly practical sacrifice. She remembers that her neighborhood used to absolutely love her samosas, so she pitches a business idea. She's going to cook, and Shamu will sell. But there's a catch. They have zero capital. So she insists on selling her Mangalsutra, the sacred wedding necklace given to her by her late mother-in-law. It's the ultimate sacrifice of a cherished memory for their future survival. With that money, they buy potatoes, oil, spices, and rent a humble little cart. Which brings us to Section 3, the samosa shop. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it totally shatters the myth of overnight success. Picture this. Shamu's standing by his cart yelling out, "Samosas, hot, delicious samosas," all day in the blazing hot sun. But despite his relentless effort, barely anyone comes. He's getting just a tiny trickle of customers. Honestly, not even enough to recover the daily cost of his potatoes and oil. He goes home to Bhavna on the brink of absolute despair, feeling like, they've sacrificed his mother's sacred necklace for an absolute failure. That leads us to Section 4, The Miracle Room. One evening, completely overwhelmed by failure and grief, Shamu goes into his late mother's locked room, falls into a really deep sleep, and has this super vivid dream of her. And in it, she gives him this powerful promise. She says, "My soul lives in this room. Your samosa sacks will never run out of potatoes." She tells him that with his father's blessing, her spirit will empower his business. Literally all he has to do is store his raw ingredients in her old room. So following the dream, Shamu and Bhavna do exactly that. They move all their potatoes, their spices, and cooking oil right into the mother's room. And the next day, the magic happens. A massive crowd just swarms the cart. They sell out completely. But here's the crazy part. When they check the room, the sacks of potatoes are still completely full. The oil hasn't dropped a single inch. Because their overhead costs are now magically zero, their profits just absolutely skyrocket. Within a month, that tiny cart is gone, replaced by a booming brick-and-mortar restaurant selling samosas, jalebis, and sweet curd. We're talking unimaginable wealth here. All right, Section 5, Jealousy and the Fire. As we all know, every rise to the top attracts attention. Enter Kishan. He is another fisherman from the village who gave up early to go work at a grocery store. And this brilliantly illustrates a core theme. Both men face the exact same poverty from the exact same drying pond. But look at their reactions. Shamu adapts to the hardship, he leans on his family, and pushes through the failure. Kishan, on the other hand, gives up easily, lets his resentment fester, and ultimately chooses destruction over self-improvement. He actually tastes Shamu's samosas, flat out refuses to admit they're good, and convinces himself Shamu must be using dark magic. So Kishan's jealousy reaches a complete boiling point. One evening, he sneaks outside Shamu's window and overhears Shamu and Bobna talking about the secret of the mother's magical room. Kishan realizes this room is the source of all Shamu's wealth. So, driven by pure malice, he comes back in the dead of night with a can of petrol. He douses the magical room and sets Shamu's entire house and business ablaze, just fleeing into the darkness as the flames roar. Now for the fallout. Section 6. The power of forgiveness. Thankfully, Shamu and his family do manage to escape the flames safely, but their whole empire is turned to ashes. The morning after the fire, the village council, the Panchayat, steps in to deliver justice. And it starts with a key witness. Veena Mausi, a village auntie who had been out late borrowing some flour, testifies that she saw Kishan red-handed splashing petrol on the house. Caught in his lie, Kishan just completely breaks down. The Muhia, the village headman, immediately sentences Kishan to be handed over to the police to rot in jail. Kishan is sobbing, he's begging for mercy, crying that his own wife and kids will literally starve if he gets locked up. And then Shamu does the unthinkable. He stops the Mukhia. He looks at the man who just destroyed his entire life's work out of pure spite and says, "He is my friend. I forgive him." So the crucial point is, Shamu refuses to let Kishan's children suffer the exact same starvation his own family once faced. He pardons Kishan completely, vows to rebuild the restaurant and the mother's room with his own two hands, and amazingly, actually wait, no way, this is the best part. He later even offers Kishan a job to help him feed his family. Which leaves us with this final, really powerful thought. Shamu built an empire with a magical room? Yes, but his true superpower was always his heart. When everything burned down, it wasn't the endless potatoes that saved the community from a toxic cycle of vengeance. It was grace. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder. Is true wealth found in a magical room of endless resources, or is it found in the boundless capacity to forgive those who wrong us? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you something incredible to think about today.